Okay, I'm just going to do a quick video on how to score and cut for your wine boxes here. Keep in mind that paper has 3 dimensions, just like anything else. Although it looks flat, it actually has 3 dimensions. So when we're looking at a piece of paper and we are going to score it, say this is our piece of paper here, and we're going to score it by breaking the top surface as we're looking at that piece of paper, right? This is where we're going to cut into that top surface here. So we've got the piece of paper and we're scoring it here, but this is what we're looking at from the side. We're going to actually break that top surface and fold it then away from that spot, right? So to that end, you'll want to use not the sharp side of your X-Acto blade, but the dull side. So rather than the side that has the sharpened razor edge of that, we're going to use this side of the X-Acto blade there to score and fold with this, okay? It's also handy to know that when you're cutting paper, because when you cut it, if we're looking at the side again of the paper here, and if you have your X-Acto blade straight down when you cut it, you'll be able to see that edge of the piece of paper that's cut, right? The white edge. If you've got color on this edge here, that's fine, but what's going to happen is that white edge will show up. One of the things that you can do is as you're cutting, if you can cut with your X-Acto blade at an angle like this, then you end up with a piece of paper that's got this kind of angle to it, right? So the color is all here, and this white edge is hidden in a way away because of the way that we cut the paper. It's not as evident as it would be if you were looking at it with a cut that went straight down. So if you can cut with your X-Acto blade at an angle, I'll show you that. That's something along the lines of doing this, and then rather than cutting straight down, I'm just going to put a slight angle on this as I cut, right? Now this paper isn't very thick, so you're not going to be able to see that, but you could see that I was cutting with an angle rather than having it straight up and down. One of the things I can tell you that you really want to do with this is make sure you've got brand new blades that are sharp. Anytime I'm starting a new project, I want to make sure I've got brand new blades to cut with, right? So let's go ahead and score this piece of paper. As I mentioned, this is really super thin paper. The paper you'll be working with is slightly thicker, so you can put a little bit more pressure on it without cutting through it, but you still have to be really super careful with it. Otherwise, you will cut through the paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and score through this line here, and I'm going to turn my blade around, so I'm using the back side of the X-Acto blade. And here I'm not cutting, so I just can go ahead and draw it straight there. And then look how nice and clean that fold is, right? Now, as I mentioned before, paper has a grain to it, and I may have been cutting with the grain there, very likely was, which makes it super easy to fold on that because that's folding with the grain. But what if we're going against the grain? Same kind of thing though. Again, I'm not trying to cut through it, so I have to be very careful there. But what I'm doing, and you'll notice too, I fold away from the score, right? So when I score that, I fold away from that. Now you very likely, when you do that, you will probably see that white edge that I was talking about. And one of the things that you can do with the bend there, that corner, and you can do that with the cut edge as well, is if you get just a color pencil that's the same or similar color to the color that's printed on the outside of the paper, and then just lightly go over that. You're not going to make it perfect, but you don't want to make it so that it's evident either. So you don't want to color really hardly in there, but if you just take a little bit, or even just, you know, a graphite, soft graphite pencil, and just go over that edge very easily with that, you can cover that pretty easily. And it'll help to hide those things. Don't forget, I mentioned when we're printing, it's best if you can hide those score lines, those dotted lines, if you can hide them by making them as thin a stroke as possible, make them a dotted line, and maybe a very light version of the color that it's on there, so that it's only really evident to you or somebody that's looking super closely. If you print them as black one-point lines, they're going to show up when you fold this, just because that's where they're at.